Okay, so there's this massive crisis unfolding at the US-Canada border, but it's not what you think. It's not about people or normal trade goods. It's about garbage, millions and millions of tons of it. We're going to talk about how a river of refuse became a geopolitical weapon and how a really surprising tech solution is now cleaning up a mess that politics just couldn't handle. And it all starts with one single staggering number.
First, let's just get a sense of the scale here. Every single year, this is how much Canadian trash, mostly from Ontario, gets trucked across the border and buried in Michigan landfills. I mean, that's just a mind-boggling amount of waste, and it's the foundation of a huge but, as we'll see, deeply troubled industry.
And here you can see just how deep that dependency goes. That 3.46 million tons, it makes up nearly 15% of all the garbage buried in Michigan. For years, Ontario has kind of treated Michigan like a release valve for its own massive waste problem. But now, that valve is being squeezed shut, hard. So why this dependency? Well, it's pretty simple, really. Ontario is running out of room. The province is literally on a ticking clock. Its own landfills are on track to be completely full in about a decade. And without a place to send its trash, Ontario faces a potential public health crisis. This is the core vulnerability that really sets the stage for this whole standoff. So this reliance, it's become this huge weakness. And the old way of doing things, just trucking trash south, it's getting hit from three different sides all at once. You've got state-level politics, federal trade wars, and some really complex data requirements. Let's break down this three-front war. The first front opened up at the state level. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer pointed to this massive price difference. I mean, look at this. 36 cents a ton. Michigan's landfill fee was an absolute bargain compared to its neighbors. Her proposal? Jack that fee up to $5, basically getting rid of the financial incentive to treat Michigan as a regional dumping ground. The second front was just pure geopolitical chaos. In early 2025, the Trump administration slaps a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, and suddenly that includes garbage. You can imagine the whole industry just freaked out. Then, in a wild turn of events, on February 20th, 2026, the Supreme Court actually strikes those tariffs down. But that relief, it literally lasted a few hours. The administration immediately pivoted, used a different law, and imposed a new 10% global surcharge. And just like that, the pressure was right back on.
And this quote right here, from Ontario's Premier Doug Ford, it just sums up the feeling in Canada perfectly. You're facing pressure from Michigan's fee hikes on one side and this chaotic, unpredictable trade war at the federal level on the other. The easy, cheap options for getting rid of waste were just vanishing. The room to maneuver was disappearing fast.
So you've got all this political heat, all this economic pressure, and the whole thing, the entire system, it boils down to one single, technical, nitty-gritty problem. It wasn't really about the fees or even the tariffs themselves. It was about the data you needed to get an exemption. And this is where the old way of doing business was about to completely fall apart. Okay, so here's the kicker. The new 10% tariff had a way out, an exemption for goods that were compliant with the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the USMCA. But to get that exemption, you needed a certificate of origin. And that created this seemingly impossible question. How on earth do you prove that a dumpster full of random junk, bits of wood, scraps of this and that, is wholly obtained in North America? How do you even begin to do that? And this table, man, it just lays out the brutal reality of that question. If you could somehow provide the data to prove your load of trash was USMCA compliant, great, you paid a 0% tariff. But if you couldn't, boom, you get slapped with an immediate 10% penalty. This wasn't a warning. It was a sudden, data-driven tax on an entire industry. And this right here is the fatal flaw. This is what brought the whole system to its knees. The traditional waste hauling industry, I'm talking trucks, bins, paper manifests, had absolutely zero infrastructure to provide this kind of detailed data. They couldn't verify where every scrap of wood came from, let alone prove it to a customs agent. Their business model was basically made technologically obsolete overnight. So out of this total mess, this perfect storm of politics and tech failure, a completely new model starts to emerge. One that approached waste not as a physical problem you just haul away, but as a data problem that you solve. They called it the digital refinery. So here's the core idea, and you really gotta wrap your head around this. Forget thinking about this as just trucking. A digital refinery is a software system. It's a software architecture that takes that chaotic, physical pile of junk and turns it into a clean, verifiable stream of data. The goal isn't just to move trash, it's to verify what's in it, track exactly where it came from, and ultimately turn it into something valuable.
And you know what? The way it works is actually pretty slick and simple. It starts right at the source, on a regular Android app. An AI visually scans the wood waste, while the phone locks in the GPS coordinates. That creates an unchangeable record of where it came from. Then, the software automatically checks that load against Ontario's complicated waste laws. Finally, it calculates the financial value and then just spits out all the paperwork you need. And this right here is the golden ticket. This is the output that solves the whole crisis. The system generates a simple, printable, black and white PDF. But this is not just any piece of paper. It is an audit-proof manifest, packed with all the verified data that customs agents and regulators need. It is the bulletproof answer to that impossible certificate of origin question we were talking about. Okay, so the system solves the immediate nightmare of just getting across the border. But its real power? Oh, that's in how it totally flips the economics of waste on its head. This is about way more than just avoiding tariffs. It's about creating brand new value.
So one of the key pieces of tech that makes this all possible is something called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. Now, unlike a standard AI that might just invent answers, a RAG system is forced to find its answers within a specific, trusted library of information. In this case, the dense legal text of Ontario's waste regulations. It basically prevents the AI from just making stuff up or hallucinating, which other models are famous for. And this is just a genius way to use that technology. The entire system is anchored to this one document, Ontario Regulation 347, which is the super complex law governing waste in the province. So the AI isn't just guessing if a load is compliant, it's literally citing the chapter and verse of the law that proves it is. It transforms this complicated legal policy into automated and forcible software code. It removes human error and legal risk. It's brilliant. And this slide, it just lays it all out in black and white, the old way versus the new way. The legacy model is all about risk and cost. You might get fined, you have to pay these big provincial levies, and just trying to stay compliant costs you money. The new digital model, it gets rid of those risks, automates compliance, and actually starts making you money through things like carbon credits.
All right, let's just focus on this number for a second. $60 a ton. In Ontario, there's this provincial levy called CIRCIL. It can add up to $60 for every single ton of mixed waste you send to a landfill. But because the digital refinery can prove that a load of wood waste was properly diverted for recycling, that $60 fee just, poof, it goes to zero. That's a huge, immediate financial win.
So when you kind of zoom out from all this, you see it's about way more than just one company or one border crossing, right? This model is basically a blueprint for taking the risk out of geopolitical trade wars. It's about creating real, verifiable assets out of stuff we used to call trash. And it gives you the software plumbing for a real functional circular economy. It literally turns regulatory compliance from a headache into a competitive financial advantage. You know, this quote just says it all, really. This isn't just about a better truck or smarter app. This is a complete migration in thinking. It's about turning liabilities, things that cost you money, into verified assets. It's about building the actual software plumbing needed to make that dream of a circular economy where nothing is wasted actually work, and, more importantly, to make it profitable. And all this leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. We just saw how a mix of AI, GPS, and smart databases completely turned the gritty, old-school business of waste hauling on its head. I mean, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other huge physical legacy industries are just sitting there waiting for the right software layer to come along and change absolutely everything?